For adults with Crohn's disease or ulcerative colitis symptoms, every choice matters. Tremfya offers self-injection or intravenous infusion from the start. Tremfya is administered as injections under the skin or infusions through a vein every 4 weeks, followed by injections under the skin every 4 or 8 weeks. If your doctor decides that you can self-inject Tremfya, proper training is required. Tremfya is a prescription medicine used to treat adults with moderately to severely active Crohn's disease and adults with moderately to severely active ulcerative colitis. Serious allergic reactions and increased risk of infections and liver problems may occur. Before treatment, your doctor should check you for infections and tuberculosis. Tell your doctor if you have an infection, flu-like symptoms, or if you need a vaccine. Explore what's possible. Ask your doctor about Tremfya today. Call 1-800-526-7736 to learn more or visit tremfyaradio.com.
What should we do?
Well, I was thinking I'd just nip it in the bud before it gets worse. Because they were talking about in health class how pregnancy, it can often lead to an infant.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Hollywood Gold. I'm your host, Daniela Taplin-Lundberg, and I'm here with my right-hand woman, Becca Camerata. Hey, Bex, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
West Coast, East Coast, bi-coastal situation.
Yeah, I'm in LA right now.
Just flew in?
Just flew in literally an hour ago.
Oh my God.
Hit the ground running.
It's really happening. The business is happening. We're on the eve of a potential writer's strike, loyal listeners. Yes. And so things are, sort of going haywire as they often do in Hollywood, where no one needs much to get hysterical. And this is just like a strike that's going to shut all our writers down. And so people are trying to get a lot of business done today. And in the midst of all this, we're gonna launch into this episode about JUNO, which I'm so excited about. Bex, do you remember watching JUNO?
Oh my goodness, yes. It was huge. It was like a cultural phenomenon. I remember watching it and being like, this was such an interesting approach to teen pregnancy. And it wasn't condemning it at all.
Yeah.
And I don't know. It was fascinating to me, especially having grown up very Catholic and just having specific views, just to see this really funny and a really smart movie about this woman making a decision. And it was kind of empowering at the time when I watched it.
Well, I remember this was the movie that introduced Diablo Cody into the world. And she's just such an original, incredible writer. I mean, I think Diablo may have started as an exotic dancer. And I think Mason Novick, the producer, is going to sort of talk us through how he found her and brought her to Hollywood. And she's gone on just to write so many incredible things and direct as well. But you're right. It was a tale of teen pregnancy that seemed to sort of cater to both the left and the right. And it was one of these independent films that made over $100 million, which is so unusual for a small film to sort of break through and penetrate the sort of Midwestern states. And so I'm so excited to hear Mason sort of jump into it and tell the tale of the tape and how he discovered Diablo and her incredible voice. And then Jason Reitman, who also such an amazing filmmaker, took the project on. So let's get going.
Yeah, let's go.
The esteemed Mason Novick, it's so nice to see you. We're over Zoom here, and I don't know if we've ever met, but your reputation precedes you. I'm so excited to be chatting with you.
Thank you.
You've made many, many great films.
Some not so great ones, unfortunately.
As we all have. We don't talk about the ones, the stepchilds as much. But today we're going to talk about JUNO, which was, to me, just a film that sort of broke the mold and started a whole new trend in filmmaking and brought Diablo Cody to the fore. And she became such a major superstar as a writer and creator after that. And you were the guy who sort of brought it to the fore. So I want you to start from the beginning and tell me your first memory of how JUNO sort of came to be and how you brought it to life.
I think it was one of the rare scripts where the first time I read it, I was like, this is the best script I've ever read.
Oh my God.
That's a feeling that you don't get a lot. At that point in my life, I had probably read 1,000 scripts, 1,500 scripts. And it was so special that the first time reading it, it was just transformative. And it was like, what is this script? It's so clever. It's so funny. It's so touching. It's hard because you read so much stuff, and usually, by page 8, you're like, okay, this is terrible. I'm putting this down. And I always judge scripts by like how quick I read them. Mm-hmm. And I feel I read JUNO in 10 minutes. Mm-hmm. It was probably more than that. It was so good and so moving that it was just one of those scripts that as soon as you read it, you were like, this is something special. This is something different. This is something great.
Okay. And Mason, how did it come across your desk? Give me a little bit of like context here.
So how I met Diablo was she had a blog. She was living in Minnesota at the time, and she was writing a blog. It was very funny, a little racy. And I emailed her and just said, hey, your blog is really funny. Mm-hmm. Have you ever thought about writing anything else? And she said, well, I wrote a book. Mm-hmm. And I said, okay, send me the book. And the book was called Candy Girl. And it was sort of about her time dancing in Minneapolis. And it was about that. And it was a really smart, funny book. And so I had this book, and I'm mostly a feature person, but I know a few book agents. I know some people who worked in the books. So I was able to get it to a book agent, and it wound up selling for, I think, like low 6 figures.
Cool. Which
at the time, it was it was an unbelievable amount of money. And at that point, I think she said to me that she thought that for the first 6 months that I was emailing, she thought I was like a crazy person. And then when I was like, okay, we sold the book and here's a check. And it was like, oh, okay, this person's not crazy.
Oh, my God. Was Diablo someone that was sort of like the blog was successful and other people were sort of nosing around her? Or did you feel like she was a little bit your discovery?
I would say it's probably the latter. Blogs, everyone had a blog. It wasn't, there was no Instagram, there was no Facebook. Everyone kind of had their own little space. And so I don't know who else was reading it, but it wasn't like a syndicated blog. It was it was a woman who was writing about her experiences and, creating little cartoons and doing stuff like that. So, as you know, she had not written a screenplay though. So she had this book, and the book was really funny and really great. So the thought was, well, if you're ever going to want to adapt this book, you're going to need a screenplay sample. Mm-hmm. And you're going to need to write a script. And then we can say, well, here's a sample and we want to sell this book and you're going to adapt the book. So she pitched me an idea and I said, great, you should go write that. And she was like, great, I'm going to go write this.
Like, just go write it. Go write it on spec and like,
I was like, go write it. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Again, she had just sold her book. Mm-hmm. It was in a good place. Mm-hmm. Again, this was someone who did not live in LA. This was someone who was living in Minneapolis. So it was like, great, I just sold a book. It's like, this could never happen. How did this happen? It's amazing.
Right.
It was like, go write a screenplay because we'll need a sample. So and she said, okay, I'll go write a screenplay. And she pitched me an idea.
Was the idea similar to what we know today? Was it very different?
It was not JUNO. It was a different idea.
Oh, okay. Okay, cool.
No, it was a different idea.
Okay. What was, just out of curiosity, like what? Who knows? No one knows. Okay, no one knows.
It was not JUNO. It was a guy in a small town. It was not
Okay.
I'm sure it would have been a wonderful indie movie. It was not this movie.
Okay.
So from there, I followed up occasionally. And then one day she said, okay, I finished my script and I sent it to you. And we had an office on, I forget where my office was. It was on Yucca, sort of right by Hollywood and Highland. But it was, it's still fairly sketchy around there. It was really... It was it was like a gated off. It was just that really. And so she sent me the script. We shared it with a bunch of people. There was like a weird radio station in the back. It was a really strange office. But it was like 3 different companies like split it. It was this anyway.
Okay. Yeah, sure.
So she sent me the script and I remember getting it and was like, oh, I'm in my office, and opening it up. And at that moment, just reading the entire thing in like, probably legitimately 45 minutes. And then just being like, oh my God, what did I just read? This is so crazy. And calling her and saying, oh, I love this. It's great. From the spec to the movie we made, not a lot of difference. It was not a script that I would say, oh, and then we went through weeks of development and notes.
Yeah.
Pretty much that first script was the script. So as you know, you need to then go get the movie made. So I had the script and I thought it was really good. And I really liked it. And so, came up with a plan. And at that point, Sarah Self, who's been her agent her entire career. Same to Sarah, who also got involved very, very early. She was very helpful in finding her book agent. So, Sarah was involved very early. So we started sending the script out to financiers.
Like no filmmaker. You were going to just try to see what people are going to,
what we can do. And every single person passed.
They were like, this is too weird. It's too, like,
I don't know why, but I know that, people are like, oh, it's great writing, but I don't know how to make this movie, or, I don't know this. Because as you know, which is a bummer of things, but people rarely get in trouble for not making movies.
Right.
So a lot of people were like, not for us. So then we got it to, I think it was Jim Miller who worked at a company. I don't even know what they were called at this point. They are now basically Lionsgate. It was ultimately Nathan Kahane who made the movie, who now was over at Lionsgate. But at the time they've had many names and I forget them. But Jim Miller, who was an executive there, was like, this is great. I love this. We're going to make this movie. And gave it ultimately to Nathan Kahane. And Nathan was like, yeah, I love this. We're going to make it. Okay. And so I sold it to, to
whatever the entity was called.
Whatever the entity was, but it was Nathan, Nathan was really the champion. And then at that point, I think the script had started to get out and it started to build a buzz around it. And everyone was kind of reading it and people were kind of like, oh, this is really great. So from there, we went to the director hunt, where it was an open directing assignment, which I know it still happens sometimes today, but it was an open directing assignment. And we met a lot of directors
who really responded to it, like understood how special it was. Yes. Okay.
And it almost plays as a montage in my head because we met from, European people who wanted to change the ending where they kidnapped the baby.
No, stop.
I want to say Joel Schumacher came and met, and told us Joel Schumacher stories. And it was like one of those meetings where like, wow, it's like, we're not going to hire this guy, but I'm really glad I got to meet Joel Schumacher. Totally. It was one of those meetings where like, this is an amazing experience.
Totally. That guy did Flatliners and Batman.
Lost Boys.
Totally.
So we met, there was a director who came in with a lot of, I would say, inappropriate photos of teenage girls. And that was his sort of pitch. And we were just like, definitely not this person. So we sort of ran the gambit. And there was a young filmmaker who had one movie out called Thank You for Smoking, named Jason Reitman.
Oh, my God. And that movie, I remember, I think it premiered at Toronto, made a real splash.
Yes.
It felt like an original voice and people were super excited about him. That's my memory.
I think that is the case. Yeah, it was a really good movie. A slightly different tone. It was very adult. It was a very dark comedy.
Yeah.
And I was an agent back before this. I was an agent.
Okay.
And I worked for Jason's agent. So I actually knew him. We sort of knew each other. Because we were around, we're around the same age, and he had made a bunch of shorts and had been at the festivals with his shorts.
Yeah.
And a guy that I work with who's still his agent today named Jeff Gorin.
Jeff Gorin, sure, yeah.
Was my first boss.
Oh, my God.
When I was an agent, and then I sort of got promoted off of his desk, he had gone through. So I knew Jason a little bit. So Jason was very passionate about the project and said, I really want to do this movie. Here's my vision for it. I really know how to make this movie. I know what to do here. I know what to do here. And there was another movie called Hard Candy that had just come out.
Yes. Was that with Elliot Page?
Yes, that was Elliot Page.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And everyone saw that performance and was kind of like, this is Juno.
Uh-huh.
And everybody was kind of like, it's this person. And Jason was like, it's this person. So,
and was Nathan like, it's this person too? Like, were your backers?
Everybody.
Okay, everyone was like, this is the new young hot thing.
It just felt like this is the actor for this role. Also around this time, because when Juno came out, I was 20, I was maybe 30. I was younger.
Look at you making smash hits at 30.
The mandate brought on a company called Mr. Mudd.
Yeah, John Malkovich's company.
Nathan felt they'd be good partners, and they were good partners, and I really like Russ and Leanne, and they were good partners, so they were brought on as well.
Okay.
And they'd been on through the whole process of finding a director. They were brought on sort of first.
Okay, got it.
And ultimately, we decided we would hire Jason. And I think the next step from there was going out to Elliot. And then sort of saying, okay, we're going to go make this movie. It had been and I don't know how much your listeners know about the movie, but it had been a very quick process. It had probably been about a year since I got the script to when we were about to shoot
Very quick.
It's very fast.
Like most of our experiences are like 3, 4, 5, 6 years, the journeys. So this is exceptionally fast. Yeah.
So we hired Jason, we hired Elliot. We started to put the cast together. Michael Cera off of Arrested Development was someone else. Everybody, it was sort of like unanimous. It was like,
he's the young person. Yeah. He's Bleecker. Totally.
Yeah. So he was really good for it. And then just all of a sudden the pieces started to drop into place.
And Bateman, like I look at that cast now and I'm like, you guys were sort of the forefathers of casting these charactery. Like I felt like Bateman hadn't been cast in something like that for a while. Maybe I'm wrong, but it felt like you were taking a lot of like big leaps there.
So I will spare this person's name, although I do not care for this person and will never work with this person. There was a different person in the Jason Bateman role up to about a few days before the movie started.
Stop.
True story. And for whatever reason, playing the guitar was important to that character, that they played guitar, that they were into music. And this person, about 2 days before the movie was supposed to film, 3 days, maybe even if it was a week before the movie was supposed to film, decided that role was girly, did not want to learn to play guitar, and was not doing the movie, and let us know over text.
No. Stop.
Yeah. So Jason had always been someone that everybody liked. And it didn't really bother everybody that much, but because they were father and son on a TV show, for them to be
oh my God, that's right. They were Arrested Development.
Yeah, and I think that no one cared. Ultimately, I think no one cared. And I will give credit to the other people because this was always something that I was like, I don't know.
Yeah.
And everyone was just like, you're wrong. And I clearly was wrong.
Right.
Wow, your shorts are like especially gold today.
My mom uses color safe bleach.
Go Carol.
I'll tell her.
And this, of course, is Juno.
Like the city in Alaska.
No.
So Jason had always been on the list. And so then we went to Jason, and Jason was like, great. Yeah, I always love the script. I want to do it. He had a window. I loved Michael. And so was happy to come out. We shot the movie in Vancouver. So, we were up in prep in Vancouver. We were living in a hotel. We were waiting for the other actor. I just literally texted, I'm not coming. I don't like this role anymore.
Oh, my God. Was that the biggest casting drama you had? Like Allison Janney, J.K. Simmons, Jen Garner, those things sort of fell naturally into place?
Yeah, they were all super easy and super great and lovely. I mean, everyone who worked in the movie was lovely.
Yeah.
It was one of those. It was a very nice experience. And obviously we were able to put such a good supporting cast together with JK, with Allison, obviously at the time, Jennifer was probably the biggest star name. So when you went, okay, we're making this movie for $7 million, who's in it that's going to drive? Obviously Allison and JK, big stars now. At the time, were really respected actors. And so, I think not the reason the movie got made, but the actress that had value that you could put on the poster was Jen Garner.
Yeah.
Because she was on a TV show. She was she's a big movie star, and a big personality. So she was someone who I think she was a lot of the reason that people felt comfortable making the movie at that price because, we have Jennifer Garner. She can go on the Tonight Show and promote it. Mm-hmm. And also, and again, to get this for later, but when we were previewing the movie, again, I don't know how much people know about this, but they sort of go out to malls and they go out at the time. They would go out to malls. They would go out to places and they would hand out flyers and be like, have you ever heard of any of these people? The only reason people came to see this movie was Jennifer Garner. Everything else, it was like, it's this person. It's a movie about teen pregnancy. I was like, oh, thank you. No, thank you. No, thank you. They were like, Jennifer Garner's in it. And they were like, oh, Jennifer Garner's in it? I will. Because I remember, they were saying the recruit ratio was it was 150 to 1. And we're like, oh, is that good? They're like, no, that's terrible. But the one they're like in every single person, they're like the only reason they're here is because Jennifer Garner. They're like the only reason anyone.
So like if they went out and were like, this is the film description, you ask 150 people, one person would come from the film description.
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, it was probably like 17 to 1. I think.
Right. But it was not good.
Which is still not a good ratio.
It's not great.
But they all were like, oh, Jennifer Garner's in it. I'll go see a Jennifer. You know, it's like, it's a new Jennifer Garner movie.
Yeah. So funny. Okay. Is there any distribution in place yet, Mason, as you're going into production?
I think that they had sold the movie to Fox Searchlight at this point.
Okay.
I believe that they had sold the movie to Fox Searchlight at this point.
Okay.
I can't say for sure, but Fox Searchlight was on very early, and it was a great when it was, and I like, I still like everybody over there, but it was when Peter Rice was running it.
Yeah.
It was sort of in that boom when Fox Searchlight it was this and Little Miss Sunshine and Napoleon Dynamite.
The coolest company ever. You could compare it to A24 now. Like they were just doing the coolest stuff.
Yeah. And they were just doing really good stuff. And it was, I think, a great moment for like pseudo independent movies, mostly independent movies that still felt scrappy and auteur-y, but you didn't have to make them for like $50,000. And you still had, you could live in a normal hotel and you had money we didn't have all the money in the world, but we had enough money to make a good movie. And it wasn't like, oh, everything needs to be, I feel every movie in the world is always made for like 10% less than it should be made for. Like even if it's a $150 million movie, if only they had 165, then they would have all their profits. Like it's just like the ratio of every movie.
Like maybe even Scorsese feels that way. Like everyone just totally.
It's like there's always probably Steven Spielberg doesn't feel like that everybody.
Yeah, totally.
And so Searchlight was involved. It was Peter Rice. It was Claudia Lewis. It was a really good team. They had really good marketing. And this was in that realm where, you could make an indie movie. And I think it's where indie movies, I feel, went from being like, when you said indie movie, you felt it was like a weird, depressing little movie, to it could be something commercial and fun, but still not a giant, it didn't need to be robots like kicking each other in the face, but it could be uplifting, it could be fun, it could be
and still feel original. Also.
Yeah. And I feel there were a lot of indie movies at this time where it kind of went from like, oh, these are these like weird little things to, oh yeah, they could be fairly commercial, uplifting movies, actually appealed to people and actually were commercial, but still weren't, made sort of in that they had to all be shiny and look like cupcakes, and you could make something interesting and unique and try.
So talk about the shoot a little bit, because the look of the film is so unique, and it's like, it's a little stylized, like, right? It's not, it's reality, but there is like a, I just remember, I just watched it again, but like the running shorts and the like Sunny D and the Hamburglar phone and all this stuff that feels very niche and unique and like specific to Diablo. But obviously Jason really embraced that. Talk to me about that a little bit.
So all of those things are literally written into the script.
Very specifically.
The script is very specific. And she's a very specific writer. But I think what Jason did such a great job is of taking all that stuff that feels very specific and combining it so it feels like it's a world that is real and is lived in. And, that movie has a very timeless feel because everyone's not on their cell. People had cell phones when this movie came. Everyone had a cell phone. I mean, they might have had BlackBerries and Apple phones, but everyone had cell phones. Everyone had stuff was available to everybody, but it's not the focus of the movie. This movie, if you said it takes place in 82, people would be like, man, it could take place in 82. It could take place in 74. It has a timeless feel of that. It wasn't about like, oh, this is the latest technology and everybody's on this website. And I mean, totally off thing, but I feel that so dates movies when you're like, everybody, it's a whole movie and everybody's on MySpace. And you're like, that doesn't even exist. You're like, so this movie was shot between this year and this year because that thing doesn't even exist anymore. And so I think, it was a choice Jason made, and also how this group was written, that it was supposed to be timeless. And I think that, Jason Bateman's character listens to stuff on vinyl because that's his character, but it also gives it that feeling of where exactly
even
does this
finding the couple in the penny saver. I was just like, that's so fucking brilliant. There was no like searching the internet. It was like they saw their picture in like the local magazine, and like it made it feel so nostalgic but also current. And so that was brilliant and well executed. Okay, so and was Diablo on set? Like, I'm just trying to understand like their dynamic, or really was she like, all right, take this, and I'm new and I'm lucky to be, having my film made? And
she was on set for part. I don't think she was on set the whole time. I think she definitely came out and visited, but I don't believe she was on set the whole time. I think she was out for like chunks of it. But they spoke, Jason and her spoke a lot on the phone. And if there were questions, they talked back and forth. And again, though, but so much of it was on the page. And Jason's a very prepared filmmaker. He likes to do photo storyboards, kind of. He'll be at the locations. Like, he would travel sometimes with, we'd bring the stand-ins on the tech scout with us. So we could be like, okay, stand there, you stand there, and would take pictures and had a book of, okay, these are the shots. So it was always like, he always knew what he wanted. He always knew what he wanted to get. He's very prepared, very much knew, okay, these are the shots I want. This is why I want to shoot this. And he has and I've worked with a lot of them for a lot of movies. He has a really good core team. He had a first AD that he really liked to work with and a DP that he really liked to work with. And, just with that team with me, we've made 5 or 6 movies together, just the 4 of us. So it's a very close-knit group. They've made all of Jason's movies together. And so it was a good core team. They would go to dinner with them every Sunday night and talk about the next week. And so it was always a very prepared, very ready shoot. And it wasn't a shoot that we had a ton of, and it's a weird thing to say, but sometimes when you have like teenagers on a movie set, it's a little like high school. And I've definitely worked on other movies with a lot of kids. Jennifer's Body was definitely a little bit more that high school vibe. In this movie, it was a relatively easy production in the sense of, I don't remember there being like giant, oh no, this happened moments, or oh, we can't shoot today because of this. We had our locations, we had our places. Canada's lovely, Vancouver's lovely. My favorite production story is it was supposed to be snowing. And so we were shooting in this house. It was, about 45 minutes outside of downtown. And we were shooting in this house. And, usually you put fake snow down on the houses across the street. And one neighbor was like, no, you can't put fake. It was like shredded ice. And they were like, no, you can't put it on our lawn. They're like, no. And we're like, okay, we'll give you $5,000. No, we don't want it on our lawn. We don't care. And so we're like, okay, we're not going to be able to shoot that way. We'll only be able to shoot this way. We had trucks in, and the ice all comes from like the fish market. So it smells terrible because it's like, it's the only place that has that much ice that then they put it in like, they put it in like wood choppers and like spray it all over, but it all smells like fish. It's disgusting. So this night, and we're just like, well, those people, they're just like, no matter what we offer them, they're like, no.
Yeah.
Just by chance, there was one of the heaviest snowfalls in Vancouver.
No, stop.
That night.
Oh, my God.
The night that it was supposed to be fake snow, it actually snowed. So instead of the crappy fake snow we were supposed to have, we actually got this beautiful like dusting of real snow. The next day, everything was beautifully covered in snow. And it was just one of those where you're like,
like the film gods are with us. Like sometimes it just works out. It's amazing.
But that's what it was like.
And was Fox Searchlight getting excited about dailies? Like, were you sort of feeling, because, you watch that movie and it feels so unique and feels like it sort of launched a whole school of films that sort of tried to copy that feeling, especially after the success of it. Were you guys feeling that, like watching the dailies? Were you getting any feedback, or were you kind of in your bubble and like making this unique piece?
I don't remember. I mean, I think everyone thought the dailies looked really good. I think everyone was really happy with what they were seeing. I remember I'm doing other movies with Searchlight where they called us some things and you were just like, you want me to stop filming to go do what exactly? Or you don't like this person's pants and I really need to tell them they're not allowed to wear these pants anymore? Like, actually, this is weird. But no, I don't really remember any of that. It seemed like it was a pretty smooth ride.
And so you get into the edit. Sometimes that's a short journey. Sometimes it's very, very protracted and long. Like it takes a minute to find it. I
think we knew what it was. I think the edit went pretty smooth. Again, Jason had an editor he'd like to work with and has worked with a lot, who has done a lot of his movies. And so again, he has very much, like, if you look at a lot of the other stuff he's done, there was a lot of the same, obviously, and there was a lot of the same people working on the movie, and the edit I think was coming together nicely. I think we did like 1 or 2 days of reshoots, which was but like pretty simple stuff. I think once we had the movie, I don't know if it was before or after we tested it, but there was like a couple moments towards the end where it was just like, is there enough being put into this decision? Do we need a moment of reflection? Do we need a moment of catharsis? Do we need a moment of breakdown? So I think there's a shot of, and I don't even know if it's in that, of Elliot sort of like pulling over on the road and like crying when there's a train. And then there's another scene of Elliot and Olivia like sort of on the roof of a car deciding what they're going to do. And that was kind of the stuff in reshoots. It wasn't anything major. It was like, do we need, just a moment, people are enjoying, do we need just a moment to let people process?
The dialogue is so quick and sharp, and it's constantly moving. So I could see like maybe you need a breath once in a while just so that it feels like it's emotionally.
Yeah, it's funny, right? Because in those reshoots, right, the reshoots were definitely quiet. It was like we need more quiet moments, not, okay, we need to come up with a scene that can explain why this goes to here and then they wind up. It was none of that. It was like, we just need a moment to just let the audience kind of be like, okay, they're thinking about stuff. We need to take it, which is just so the opposite of you. It's like, okay, we need to explain these 12 things in 1 minute, figure it out. Here it was just like, just no dialogue, just like have them chill. Like they need to cry. They need to see them thinking.
Yeah.
So
that is hilarious. That is so funny.
The movie tested well. My theory on testing, it goes for all movies. I think if you score too high on testing, it's sometimes not a great thing, because if everybody in the test audience likes it, it's too easy. Or you can sort of, I don't know, there's stories of like, this movie tested perfectly to, the audience. And it was like, yeah, because they literally just got exactly, it was like, oh, it tested 100. It was like, yeah, because you literally went and got the audience who was going to like this, gave them free popcorn and sat them down. It's like, yeah, no shit, they're going to give you 100. But this movie tested in a good place. But there were always some people who were like, I didn't think it was perfect because I think she should have kept the baby. And so I think that is the kind of thing we go, okay, as long as there's a percentage that's going to go, it wasn't perfect because if only they had done this, at least then you've got people because they're thinking about it and they're having a visceral reaction to the movie.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people understood what it was supposed to be, but there was always that small group that was like, so this was not a movie that tested like 100 and everybody was like, it's the perfect movie. And it was interesting because we did, and I guess they still sort of, but we did 2 test screenings. We tested it at an art house theater for like an art house crowd. And then we tested it at that was in Pasadena. And then
how did that do?
Good. It did really good. And so the art house crowd really liked it. And then we did a more we tried to be like, okay, let's do a younger test screening. And they did that at like the Block at Orange or one of those like mega malls like that. And it also did about the same. So when Searchlight was making the movie, or when they were making the movie, their sort of thought was, we need to get one of these audiences. We either need the art house theater goers or like teenage girls. Mm-hmm. And either one is fine. But as long as we get one of those audiences, then we'll recoup and we'll have a hit movie. Not, I think the fact that they got both of those audiences and then is why that movie made as much money as it did. But it was always like, okay, if we can get, if we can sell it that it's an art house fancy movie, great. Or if we can sell it that it's, a teen girls, then we can do okay with that.
Yeah.
And I think why the movie, and I apologize, I'm jumping ahead, but I think why the movie did so well is because all the different groups could see themselves, because there were young people in the movie and there were adults in the movie. And so if you were a parent, you could watch this movie and be like, oh, this is a movie about a parent and their kids. If you were younger, you could be like, this is a problem about kids dealing with their problems. If you were someone, who had issues with their kids, you go, okay, well, here it's about kids who are doing this. If you were playing, and so it hit so many, because I think so many people could see themselves in the movie. And I know so many people who were like, who know Allison Janney wasn't the main character of the movie, but they could watch it through her eyes, be like, I 100% relate to this because of Allison Janney. Or people who could say, okay, I'm not Elliot, I'm not Michael, but I'm JK. And I totally understand this movie because I totally understand how, as a dad, how I would be going through this situation.
Right.
Who is the kid?
The baby? I don't really know much about it other than, it has fingernails, allegedly.
Nails, really?
Yeah.
No, I don't. Who is the father?
For adults with Crohn's disease or ulcerative colitis symptoms, every choice matters. Tremfya offers self-injection or intravenous infusion from the start. Tremfya is administered as injections under the skin or infusions through a vein every 4 weeks, followed by injections under the skin every 4 or 8 weeks. If your doctor decides that you can self-inject Tremfya, proper training is required. Tremfya is a prescription medicine used to treat adults with moderately to severely active Crohn's disease and adults with moderately to severely active ulcerative colitis. Serious allergic reactions and increased risk of infections and liver problems may occur. Before treatment, your doctor should check you for infections and tuberculosis. Tell your doctor if you have an infection, flu-like symptoms, or if you need a vaccine. Explore what's possible. Ask your doctor about Tremfya today. Call 1-800-526-7736 to learn more or visit tremfyaradio.com.
JUNO?
Your shirt is stupid. Grow up. If I have to wait for you to become Kurt Cobain, I'm never gonna be a mother.
I never said I'd be a good father.
So, Mason, I remember when this came out, and it made so much money.
But never number one. Always it never won the weekend. It was always number 2.
Do you remember what the box office was on the movie? It was like...
I think it was like 130, well, somewhere like 130.
I mean, this was like a $7 million movie. I mean, it was like such a bonanza for like small Fox Searchlight art house film. Like, I feel like people just couldn't believe it. And I'm going to tell you about like a theory that was sort of thrown around at the time and just see how you respond. And it's a little bit what you're talking about, but it was like a liberal art house film that also satisfied quite a conservative audience as well. Because it was like this girl was not giving up the baby. She was, and so is that something you guys ever heard or talked about or even anticipated? Like hitting both conservative and liberal audiences is very difficult to do. And you did it in spades. And so just talk to me about that.
No one ever talked about that making the movie. I think for good or for bad, I think the country was less divided when this movie came out and there was a much bigger middle and not like I am this person or I am this person. But yeah, I think, it's come up, and I know Brooke Diablo recently did an interview sort of about this, but I think that no, we never were like, oh, it's conservative, because it's not. It's a movie about a woman who has to make a decision.
Woman's journey, totally
right. And I think that it's not about abortion. It's not about that, And I think it's a extremely, and not to like reframe it, but I think it's an extremely pro-choice movie because she had a choice. It's pro-choice as you can be because it was about making a choice. This is the choice this person made.
Right.
And not because she had to, not because she was forced to, not because she was going to make a bad choice and then made a good choice, not because it was about, this was the decision that she made and how she followed through, and did she make the right decision? And this is her choice. And so I don't think it was, but yes, it did. And there were times where we'd see, the number one box office in the country was, a small town in Iowa. And you were like, how is that possible? That,
right.
Also the movie was distributed in a way that I don't think they do a ton anymore, but it was called a limited release, and they don't do it as much anymore. And so the first weekend it came out in maybe 7 theaters, like 3 in New York and 3 in LA. Mm-hmm. And people would go see it, and it did amazing numbers. It was sold out every theater.
Per screen average was incredible. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Per screen was incredible. And it wasn't available anywhere else. And so every week people were like, oh, I hear about this thing, but I can't see it. Mm-hmm. What is this thing? Like, what is this movie that I hear? It's in the news. It's in this, but I can't, it's not playing where I live.
Yeah.
And then, the next week it'd be in Chicago, Dallas, Houston, Atlanta. And then it'd be like, okay. And then from there, it'd be like, oh, we saw it. And, and it was still doing great on the coast. And then it was more places. And then the next week it was more places. And then, people were, Searchlight told people were calling, smaller movies were calling me like, when we need this movie now, like, how do we get this? And that it, it played for just such a long time as well that, traditionally it plays for 2 weeks and moves on. In some of these like smaller, and I always remember because it was Mason City, Iowa, like it played there for like 7 weeks. And it was one of the highest grossing theaters in the country. Mason City, Iowa is not usually the highest grossing theater in the country. But for this movie, it was one of them because people wanted to see it and people went, and I don't, church groups went or schools went. People all went and saw it, and it was this thing, and it really did like trickle into the country and trickle into smaller markets with this fanfare. And I don't want to say hype because it was actually a good movie and they wanted to see it, but it trickled in with this fanfare and people were excited to get it and excited to go. And it played for a really long time. It was never the number one movie in the country. It won some days, but it never won a weekend. It was always number two behind stuff. But I give a lot of the credit to is it was funny, it was smart, it was clever without feeling, let's say, like highfalutin. It didn't feel, it was smart and clever, but it didn't feel fancy.
Yeah.
It felt very approachable.
Accessible, totally.
Accessible to everybody. It had its own like sort of clever slang and words, but it didn't feel like, oh, like I'm old, I don't understand what they're talking about. Or no one understood what they were talking. It was all stuff that was new. It wasn't like, oh, this is for millennials. And I do believe that just the cast that we had and that there were the three generations of actors in the movie, I felt really helped. Because look, I've made other movies that I thought were really good. And they just, sometimes they don't have one of those things. You go, yeah, like that movie made this much money in this because people could. Like, I know people who, like, I truly believe they think that J.K. and Allison Janney were the leads of the movie. Even if they weren't, that is how they feel about it. And I know people that think, Jennifer Garner and Jason Bateman, it was really their movie and these kids were servicing them. And, and obviously the young people all go, clearly it's about these two. And I think when you get that, it just is so inviting when you see in a trailer yourself or someone that you can project on, or you go, okay, this is a movie. I can go see this movie and I can bring my kids to go see this movie and I can, grandparents could go see it. Young parents could go see it. Kids could go see it. It didn't. And it also felt inviting to all of them as opposed to like, oh yeah, you're here for a joke. Like, no, every single one of those people had really emotionally deep arcs and satisfying resolutions to their stories, and they had something to do and something to say and something to contribute. I think that that's what breaks those boundaries, is that it's identifiable to all the groups can go, yeah, like I see myself in that trailer. I feel I'll be okay in this one. I can go see this movie. It's going to speak to me too. And that's what I think really made it crossover.
I think that's right. I just rewatching it, that scene with Allison Janney when they're at the sonogram and she gives the sonogram tech the business. And I'm just like, in that moment, Allison Janney is the hero, right? She's the badass, right? And like Juno may give her like shit once in a while, but like you respect that woman. Diablo just gave respect to every single character in the script, and that doesn't always happen. Okay, so it was out for weeks and weeks, 2008?
It was the year that it was the year of the writer's strike, because there was no Golden Globes that year, so it was right around when the writer's strike was.
Oh.
Then all of a sudden it's like, is this going to be an Oscar movie? And then, we had that whole momentum. And at that point, too, most of the stuff wasn't online. So everyone was sort of like, okay, look, we have momentum for Oscars. We need everybody to, rally and go out. And so I think, they sent Jason and Diablo and Elliot must have gone to a million things. And I used to joke that anytime like they weren't available, they would send me and JK. So we were like the B team. They were like, oh yeah, it's like, we couldn't get you any. So it's like, oh, do you know Mason and JK? We'll send them to you. And then, so we'd have a screening and then like me and JK would answer questions. Then I would be like, tell us about Jason, Elliot, and Diablo. We'd be like, well, okay, well, like, so we were sort of the big team. I remember doing a couple different events with JK. It was always like, okay, it's like Jason and Brooke, you're going to Tokyo to promote the movie. It's like Mason and JK. It's like KCRW is doing a thing in North Hollywood. You have to go to that. And so, again, everyone got behind the movie. I think everyone felt really good about the movie. Everyone felt it was a special movie and everyone felt really good about it. So then we were able to obviously celebrate with the Oscars. And Brooke
remind me what you guys got recognized for.
I want to say Elliot got nominated. It got nominated for Best Picture. Jason got nominated, and Diablo got nominated.
Oh my God! Like the holy quad,
pretty
or whatever.
Much, like
that's
all the
crazy.
Like it was Best Actress, Best Director, Best Writer, and obviously Brooke won. And, and obviously you want to win, but that's the one of all the awards, like the only one that you're like, and I was nominated for that. No one's like, and I was nominated for a Golden Globe.
Yeah.
You're like, yeah, I'm with the Golden Globes. Like, I want to win. Like, I won a Golden Globe or I didn't. But for Oscars, like being just nominated for Oscars,
huge.
It's amazing.
Oh my God.
And we lost to another movie that's like, it is a seminal classic. It's not like one of those years you're like, oh man, we should have won. We lost to the Coen Brothers movie with No Country for Old Men. So like, hey, like you're gonna lose to something like that's I would prefer that we won, but it's not like, and I'm not gonna name, but it's not like you're like, we lost to what movie? And then a year later, people are like, I don't remember that movie. Yes, that movie, seminal movie, an amazing film, amazing filmmakers. So you sort of go, yeah, okay, like I get it. Like, yeah, that's real competition. It wasn't like one of those years you're like, oh, it was a really light year. It was like, yeah, that was a real serious contender. You're like, okay, fair enough. Like, yeah, the Coen Brothers and all right, fair enough.
God, what a ride, man. What a ride. And you were so young. Like, crazy. So, the years have progressed. It's 15 years later or whatever it is. I certainly feel like it has like such lasting impact and is still such like a fan favorite. What is your like take on lasting legacy of the movie?
It's going to be weird to say. I think it's back to a really good place. It was super popular, and then there was such a horrible amount of backlash to it for a while. It got so big and so popular that I think just then the people who found it first then turned on it. And that, the hipster art house crowds and the hipster kids were then like, oh, well, now my grandma thinks this is cool. This is not cool anymore.
Yes.
That. And then there was an unbelievable, terrible amount of backlash.
Oh, interesting.
Like afterwards. And there was, so many things like, oh, he's not really talented. And these are, all this terrible backlash towards the movie. And then I think now that we've gotten past that, people are just like, oh yeah, it was a really good movie, and it was a really good movie. A lot of people enjoyed it, and everybody liked it. But there definitely was a time when, where it was not. It went from like being super cool to being super not cool, and then I think so now that it's people, in a clear mind, people go, oh no, I like that movie. It was really good. And I think that, it hasn't changed. It's still a movie that's very watchable for families. It's still a movie that's very watchable. I think because it has some of that timelessness, it doesn't feel like a relic of this time, or a relic of this movie was clearly shot in the early 2000s, because look at all the references they make. It was pretty wide open to not being that. And so, maybe people don't have home phones anymore at all, but other than it wasn't ever like a slave to any technology or to anything that sets it, so I think I think that people have rightfully so fond memories of the movie. People remember where they were when they saw it. People remember when it was popular. People remember seeing it with their family. People remember seeing it with their friends. And so I think that most people have a very positive, I think the movie has, the legacy is a very positive and well received legacy.
I feel like we're swinging back around to this thing where like, coming out of COVID, like we just want to have some joy, that Ted Lasso effect. Like, let's bring some joy into the world. And that was something that JUNO like did so well. So I think we can tip your hat to that a little bit, Mason.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, dude, that was great. Thank you so much. It's such a good movie. You're such a great producer, and I'm so happy to know you now.
Thank you
You're
so
great.
much. Take care.
Talk soon. Bye.
Bye-bye.
How do I look?
Like a new mom.
Packages by Expedia. You were made to occasionally take the hard route to the top of the Eiffel Tower. We were made to easily bundle your trip. Expedia. Made to travel. Flight inclusive packages are ATOL protected.
Scared shitless.
Because you're like the coolest person I've ever met, and you don't even have to try,
I try really hard, actually.
Bex, what a tale of success. We talk about possibly doing films that weren't so successful, but I just love hearing of producers and filmmakers overcoming adversity and getting films made that felt a little outside of the box. And I loved the tale of this script because it was a script that was sort of out in the world for a while, or at least out in Hollywood. And it was such an original voice. Obviously, it really sort of commenced a sort of new era of writing, sort of, and dialogue, very quick-witted, sharp, of the moment dialogue. But it took a minute for people to pay attention. And it just goes to show you got to like stick with the things you believe in. And sometimes they take a minute to take hold, It wasn't like millions of people were trying to get this movie made.
Yeah, I didn't even quite realize that until you said it when you were talking to Mason, that it really was the first in a long line of films that tried to do something very similar. And I think for me, context-wise, I didn't realize where that fit in. It just seemed like that whole era of indie films were kind of that way. But I didn't realize that this really was kind of a turning point, and it was so smart. And I think what's interesting is that I loved the story of him just finding Diablo through a blog that she was writing, which amazing. I also think is very specific to that time, because nowadays I feel like everyone has either a blog or some sort of place online that they can vent their thoughts.
Yeah.
And so for him to spot something in this woman who had written a blog and then kind of help transform her into a screenwriter, that just was such a cool story. And to be honest, I feel like that's probably why it feels so authentic to the experience of the high school teen journey, because she really wasn't a Hollywood born and raised screenwriter. She was a middle America blog writer, exotic dancer.
Yeah. No, it's so true that like a lot of, this happens a lot in Hollywood where like something original will come out and then everyone will try to imitate that thing and to do versions of that thing. And they're always sort of like a slightly watered down version of the thing that felt really, truly original, right? Even if that thing felt a little imperfect, it feels unique. And this script, just the cadence of it, the language of it, it all felt so completely original. And that, like, I talked to Mason about this a lot. It was, very specific in her scene direction and the Hamburglar phone and like these little things that sort of really took hold of, the zeitgeist. But Jason Reitman was also the perfect director to sort of embrace that, right? Because you could take that script and be like, yeah, there's a lot of great things about this, but I'm going to do this my way. And it seemed like Diablo and Jason really had a meeting of the minds, and that the visual representation of the script really felt like truly like what Diablo probably imagined, right down to the casting. I mean, casting Elliot Page and Michael Cera, they weren't, gorgeous blondes, they like felt like real kids. And I loved that so much, the whole film. And, everyone from Allison Janney to J.K. Simmons, they all just felt like real red-blooded Americans from like whatever town they were in, and I just love that so much. All the like respect and she gave to the characters and the way he cast it was just so good.
Yeah. It was fascinating to me that Jennifer Garner was the biggest star.
Totally.
Because it's such a huge, there were huge names in that cast.
Yeah.
And she's still a really big star, but it just, that was interesting to me. And it did speak to the dedication to really cast the right people for these roles. And they didn't have to be stars. And the casting was genius. And I think you're right. There's this, it's a perfect example of when there's this magical pairing of writer and director, because sometimes you can have an amazing script and it just doesn't translate on screen.
Yes.
Or sometimes you have an amazing director and it doesn't, they just don't, they're not the right person for the script. And this was just, it was magic.
It's so funny. We touched a little bit upon this with Mason, but it's very hard to account for a movie making over 100 million as an independent film. Like those movies are very few and far between. I mean, way more today. But I tried to sort of drill a little bit down with Mason on this, but I think it's one of those rare movies that is cross-generational for sure. There's a character for everyone in the movie, but across political spectrum as well, right? Because this is a young girl getting pregnant who chooses to keep the baby, which is really going to appeal to the Christian right? Like that is ultimately like a big battle cry, right? But on the other hand, it's not for any other reason that she just decides that that's the right course for her. It's not like she is disdaining anyone who has an abortion, and she certainly was considering it up until the moment she decided not to, right? And so it's a very rare writer, filmmaker who can ride that line so delicately that everyone loves the film. And Mason talked about this, that the film became such a cultural phenomenon that at one point there was backlash, right? Like SNL was making fun of it. It became like such a huge deal, which is like so rare in this day and age. So it sort of seemed like they were just set out to make a film that was authentic to the writing, and they did a really good job, and then hit upon this like humongous phenomenon that they hadn't anticipated. If they had, they probably would have made it for $20 or $30 million, not $7 million. Right. So it's just so interesting. All right, guys. Well, that was another phenomenal episode. Thank you so much for joining us. Bex, you're going to do the wrap up as you've been doing so well.
Well, thank you guys for listening. Please make sure to like and subscribe. Follow us on Instagram at Stay Gold Features. DM us with any ideas you have or any movies or producers you want to see us feature. And remember to stay gold.
Stay gold, guys.